Hello everyone, here we go. This is the third and final round of exclusively spooky mini-movie reviews for October 2024. Movie number one is a viewer recommendation, I think. I couldn't actually find it on my list, but I'm pretty sure that's how I heard about this. 1979's Island of the Fishmen, also known as Screamers. Treasure seekers and shipwreck survivors encounter slimy mutants and voodoo magic on a volcanic island. According to the opening titles, you're going to see my guy Joseph Cotton, as well as Cameron Mitchell and Mel Ferrer in this, but don't get too excited. You don't see much of any of them, although each actor does try to make the most of his limited screen time. Claudio Casanelli is actually the main character in this Italian-American production, with Barbara Bach co-starring as the mostly passive heroine who stands around during the action scenes, while Richard English plays the greedy, scenery-nibbling villain. The film's got a solid opening loaded with atmosphere, and the amount of thrills and chills and gore sets up the expectation that, wow, this is gonna be something. But it quickly loses its edge after that, except for one yucky scene in a lab, props to the makeup and prosthetics guys for that. Where slime and goop are concerned, the movie's a winner. But while the monsters were scary at first, when we didn't see too much of them, the more exposure they got, the more I started to feel the design looked kind of stupid. Also, how did I end up watching two movies with Gillman monsters this month, and neither one was a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie? I love The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I would rather have watched that. I found out afterward that there are multiple versions of this film. What I watched is the US release, retitled Screamers, which features new dubbing and new footage shot by Jim Wynorski, including the opening sequence, the best part of the movie. He also added the ominous sound of heavy breathing, which didn't always make sense, but I thought it contributed a lot to the spooky scenes. So as much as I tend to look down a bit on US edits of foreign films, I think the changes here were improvements. I don't know if the music is the same in both versions, but I liked that too. It's a little all over the place, kinda funky, kinda synth-heavy, a burst of organ music here, some Phantom of the Opera, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun there, and something that sounded suspiciously like a blaster beam. I didn't love the movie. I don't know if I'd say I even liked it, but it was entertaining, and it had some creepy visuals. Number two is a TV movie of the week from 1974, Hitchhike, with an exclamation point. Cloris Leachman stars as a woman driving to San Francisco from LA who picks up a young man asking for a ride on the side of the road. She begins to feel attracted to him, unaware that he's just murdered his stepmother. So, this was annoying. I wanted to give the protagonist the benefit of the doubt. It's 1974, hitchhiking was more common back then, there weren't as many movies and things about how dangerous it is to be a hitchhiker or to pick up a hitchhiker. I allow that. But every single decision she made was the wrong one. Our first impression of her is that she's emotionally unstable. She's a woman caught in an unhappy, dead-end relationship with, we find out later, a married man. I get that she's lonely and vulnerable. But aside from the fact that she's an older woman of indeterminate age who's attracted to a guy who acts more like a teenager, that was off-putting. But there were a number of times when this kid, would be sketchy or aggressive or deceitful or just plain creepy, and instead of being like, nope, I'm done with this, bye, you can find someone else to drive you the rest of the way to LA, or to San Francisco, she would overlook it, she would go after him, like he'd go storming off, have a little temper tantrum, and she'd go chasing after him. She had so many opportunities to get away, and instead she'd go after him, she'd try to placate him, she'd bend over backwards to make him happy, and give him a second, third, fourth, fifth chance, and it was like, how many red flags do you need? It also wasn't especially scary or spooky, so as a spooky season movie, it was a dud for me. Movie number 3 is 1987's The Caller. A woman living in a secluded cabin in the woods opens the door to a man who says his car has broken down and he would very much appreciate it if she would let him use her telephone. Another scenario that used to happen that's extremely rare now, thank goodness. She lets him in, but as these two people converse, things start to get weird. Not only has he been watching her, they've possibly met before. This is a strange movie. It's only got 2 people in it, Malcolm McDowell and Madeline Smith, and it's very dialogue heavy. And that dialogue is odd. Because of that and certain clues, you start contemplating the possibilities of what might really be going on in this cryptic game of cat and mouse. They're both acting suspicious, so who is the cat and who is the mouse? Here's the thing. Whatever explanation you come up with, you're probably wrong, because the last few minutes take a crazy, unexpected turn. Apparently, a lot of people hate it because it comes out of nowhere, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It brings in a genre that I like, but it is awfully random. Did I like the movie? It had its okay moments. It had some creepy suspense, and it was interesting to ponder. But it also had moments that were... Movie number 4 is a Canadian horror movie, 2008's Pontypool. The skeleton crew of a small-town talk radio show starts hearing reports of riots, aberrant violent behavior, widespread chaos, and death. But without official confirmation, they can't tell if this alleged outbreak is real or a hoax. Last week, I found this title topping the list of horror movies set in a single location, and when I found out that that location was a radio station and it was also an outbreak movie, I was intrigued and very excited to watch it. It let me down. I like the premise, which is a neat reversal of the infamous War of the Worlds broadcast. This time, the people on the radio don't know if what they're reporting is fact or fiction. That drew me in, and for a while I enjoyed what the movie was doing. Characters and dialogue were a little off, and it wasn't quite what I had envisioned, but it had me on edge, and I was enjoying the suspense. I'm not sure I can pinpoint the exact moment when it started to fall apart for me, but gradually I realized what they were doing, and it was kind of dumb. The parameters for this outbreak, symptoms, transmission, how a person dies, etc., seem kind of inconsistent and sloppy. It's like a hodgepodge of, scary things. And then characters start having these overdramatic eureka moments about how the virus is spread and how they can avoid it. And it's an idea that, conceptually, me being a nerd, I'm kind of drawn to. But the execution just didn't work for me. The movie was adapted by Tony Burgess from his novel, Pontypool Changes Everything, and you can tell it aims to be a smart, fresh take on a stale idea. There are certain scenes in the last half hour or so where the film clearly thinks it's being brilliant and clever, maybe even a little mind-blowing and profound, but I didn't find it to be any of those things. It could have been good, maybe, but it turned into a borderline pretentious piece of nonsense. And in the end, I felt it was a waste of time. Not everyone felt this way. I found several glowing reviews that made me wonder, did we watch the same movie? I've heard the book is very different. There's also a radio play version. Maybe I'd like them better. I don't know. I'm not sure that I have enough interest to pursue those. This batch of reviews isn't too good so far, is it? Okay, I've decided to change gears. I've abandoned my list, abandoned the whole plan for Spooky Movie Month. For the rest of the video, I'm going to talk about movies I've seen before that I liked, that I've been wanting to rewatch for a long time now. But before I get to that, you probably want a better look at this shirt I'm wearing. It is a Mechagodzilla t-shirt, and I love it. Movie number 5 is the 1959 Hammer version of The Mummy. British archaeologists unearth the tomb of an ancient Egyptian princess, accidentally awakening her mummified lover and protector, who comes looking for vengeance. Following the astonishing success of Horror of Dracula and The Curse of Frankenstein, writer Jimmy Sangster, director Terence Fisher, and stars Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee reunited to make a Mummy movie, and for the third time, Hammer Film Productions struck gold. I've seen various Hammer horror movies over the years. There are ones I like, a few I really like, there are ones I don't care for at all, and a few I just won't watch. My preference does lean toward the earlier films, and of course, anytime Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee are present, that's a plus. This is one of their best, in my opinion. It's just as entertaining and chilling as the 1932 Boris Karloff original, with more mummy action to boot. Except for a flashback sequence, Christopher Lee spends all of his screen time tightly wrapped, with only his eyes exposed. By all accounts, it was a miserable experience for him, but a thrilling one for the viewer. The imposing actor gives a full-bodied performance, stiffly emerging from a swamp covered in muck, smashing through doors and windows, taking shotgun blasts like a champ. And yet his burning eyes speak volumes and suggest some vestige of humanity lingers. Peter Cushing is wonderful, as always. His character had a broken leg that didn't set right, so he limps around, and that makes a couple of the action scenes even more exciting. I love it when Cushing whips out these unexpected moves, though nothing here quite compares to my favorite moment from Horror of Dracula. Yvonne Furneaux appears as Cushing's wife, and like most Hammer leading ladies, her abundant tresses are elegantly coiffed, but what really stands out is the vibrant purple and bright red of her wardrobe. That's Hammer taking full advantage of the Technicolor. They produced 3 other Mummy movies after this. I saw the second, The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, and I might have seen the third, The Mummy's Shroud, but for me, this first one is the best. Movie number 6 is one I've mentioned a few times in the past, 1944's The Uninvited. Ray Milland and Ruth Hussey play brother and sister on holiday visiting the Cornish coast when they happen upon an old abandoned house. Falling in love with the place, they're thrilled to learn that it's for sale for an astonishingly low price. Not long after moving in, they realize why. Strange weeping can be heard in the night, an icy draft invokes a wave of depression, and there are rumors of a ghost. I'm not really one for ghost stories, but there are a few films in that subgenre that I really like, and this is at the top of that list. It's a lovely movie, with touches of humor and romance that offset the eerie scenes. Everyone delivers an excellent performance, although he's mostly remembered today for his villainous or disturbing roles in movies like Dial M for Murder and X, the Man with the X-Ray Eyes. Ray Milland is well cast as the good-humored, charming leading man. He has solid rapport with Hussey, with their Irish maid, played by character actress Barbara Everest, and with co-star Gail Russell in her breakout role. With her sweetly tragic face and big eyes, Russell steals the show, her character drawn to the house she lived in as a baby, while her grandfather, played by Donald Crisp, fervently tries to keep her away. And perhaps he's right, as what she believes to be the memory of her mother pulling her in may actually be a malignant force trying to destroy her. I do remember having a little trouble keeping the story straight when I saw this ages ago, but I didn't have as much difficulty this time, either because I kind of remembered some things, or because it's just well written enough that you can follow it despite the turns the narrative takes. It's a remarkably well-made film in every aspect, especially when you learn it was also director Lewis Allen's feature debut. Music by Victor Young features the beautiful serenade Stella by Starlight, which is one of the prettiest movie themes of the 1940s. The special effects hold up admirably, and what I noticed the most this time is how gorgeous the lighting is in so many scenes. Visually, it's a striking movie. Now, depending on what you're looking for, or what you're accustomed to seeing in later haunted house movies, this might not do it for you, but it's got all the right ingredients, paired with an intriguing story and agreeable, endearing characters, and for me, it remains one of the most appealing classics of the genre. Movie number 7 is 1943's Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from Universal, second entry in their Wolfman series and fifth entry in their Frankenstein series. When grave robbers disturb the final resting place of Lawrence Talbot on the night of a full moon, he transforms into a wolf and escapes. Waking in a hospital to discover his curse has apparently granted him immortality, a despairing Talbot desperately goes in search of someone who will help him end his life and stop the killing for good. I already reviewed this once a few years ago in the seminal work of erudite film criticism that is my Monster Mash video, so if you want to hear what I thought of it within the context of its predecessors and sequels, follow the link in the description. Out of context, I still think it's a very good movie, and it stands on its own better than several other Universal sequels of the same era. It's probably important to have seen The Wolfman first, as this is a direct sequel that continues Lawrence Talbot's story. It may also be helpful to be familiar with the events of The Ghost of Frankenstein. However, if you're not, I don't think you'll be at a huge disadvantage. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman has a great ensemble cast. Lon Chaney Jr. returns in his signature role. Larry Talbot is his character. For me, there is no other Wolfman. Patrick Knowles plays the concerned doctor trying to help him, while Ilona Massey represents the current generation of the Frankenstein family, and both of them, their characters and their performances, were even better than I remembered. But I'd forgotten how many other people were in this. The great Maria Ouspenskaya returns as Maliva the Gypsy, Lionel Atwill crops up as the mayor of Visaria, Dwight Fry appears as one of the paranoid townsfolk, and Bela Lugosi takes his stab at the monster. Of the various portrayals over a 14-year period, 17 if you count Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, I do think that Lugosi's might be the weakest, although Chaney's wasn't too hot either. He was a great werewolf. That doesn't mean he'd be equally good playing all the other monsters. I was even less impressed with his take on Dracula, but that's Lugosi's baby, so there you go. This movie is fun, although it's not the insane kind of romp that the two movies that came after are. It's more in keeping with 1941's The Wolfman, which is such a great movie, I think, because of its somber attitude and family tragedy, in addition to being one of the best classic monster movies. Both were written by Kurt Siodmak, who treads a similar path here, especially in the first half, Talbot's agony at finding himself trapped in a never-ending nightmare, maintaining a level of emotional gravity. The film also boasts a splendid main titles sequence, nice effects, iconic Jack Pierce makeup, attractive camera work, and those quintessential Universal sound stages. For my final spooky selection, I've decided to rewatch one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, 1976's The Town That Dreaded Sundown. In the spring of 1946, the citizens of Texarkana are gripped by fear when an unknown killer starts randomly attacking people at night. Occasionally, I see this described as one of the earliest slasher movies, but I don't agree with that label. I don't like slashers, so there's that, but I don't think it should count as one because there is no slashing. I also feel it has a tremendous advantage in being based on a true story, the unsolved mystery of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. And while the film does take some liberties, it presents itself as grounded in fact. It is done in the style of a docudrama, with a narrator setting the scene and filling in gaps, and I think that really adds a sense of reality to it. Ben Johnson and Andrew Prine star, and they're both very good. Prine plays a deputy who takes a personal interest in the case, and Johnson enters as a special investigator brought in to lead the manhunt. While it's not a character-driven piece, they help give the narrative structure and neatly handle whatever the script gives them. There are a few moments of comic relief, which I could call atonal and distracting. You have these terrifying sequences, and then there'll be a goofy scene with the Keystone Cop, a character known as Sparkplug, who can't drive, and the decoy policemen disguised as women, and those are a bit silly, and I would say it was jarring and out of place, except I did find it awfully funny. The film's got a couple other little warts, which I think explains why it has such a low IMDb rating. Some of the minor performances are unimpressive, certain actors don't seem to have as much experience and deliver their lines in a stilted way. There are also a few music cues that are a bit schmaltzy. It's mostly serious, though, emphasizing the paranoia of the community as the peace of its post-war return to normalcy is shattered. No one knows who's next, nobody wants to venture out at night because the killer could strike anywhere at any time. I remember when I watched this the first time years ago, I was so tense and so scared during the attack scenes. It's not that they're terribly violent, but they are prolonged, and they're disturbingly quiet, and they're sadistic, and the killer is unpredictable. The actor does a very good job. We never see his face, but he conveys personality in his forceful breathing, his glowing eyes, and his herky-jerky movements. He's a relentless madman who chooses his victims at random and toys with them, and that inexplicable cruelty, underlined by the reminder that these events really occurred, is what makes this so powerful to me. And I remember being haunted by the way this ends. I don't want to spoil anything, but there are certain images that have always stuck with me and bothered the heck out of me. Despite its weaknesses, I rate this one pretty highly. Plots that just came from a creative writer's imagination and films that owe their effectiveness to gory visuals or camera tricks are all very well, but the ones that really give me goosebumps and make me nervous when I look out the window at night are ones like this, about violent crimes that really happened with no rhyme or reason. Well, I think I managed to salvage this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Films are listed in the description as usual. I will probably squeeze in a couple more before the 31st, but you'll have to tune in to what else I saw in October to hear about those. Go ahead and share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next weekend. Thanks for watching.